A single week aboard a superyacht can cost more than the average American earns in 5 years. $300,000, sometimes more. The person paying it doesn't own the boat, doesn't maintain it, doesn't even think about the 20-person crew standing by to fold towels into the shape of swans. They show up, hand over a credit card that could buy a house, and sail away for 7 days. Somebody owns that yacht. Somebody built a business renting it out by the week. So does that business actually make money? A charter yacht is not the same as a private yacht. A private yacht sits mostly empty, waiting for its owner. A charter yacht works. It's rented out week after week to strangers with enough money to not care what it costs. The largest ones run 150 feet and up, crewed by chefs trained in Michelin kitchens, deckhands who double as dive instructors, and captains who've navigated the Mediterranean and the Caribbean so many times they could do it half asleep. Companies like Burgess and Fraser Yachts built entire brokerage empires just managing these fleets for owners who want the prestige of ownership without doing any of the actual work. Buying in starts around $20 million for something respectable and climbs past $80 million for the boats that make headlines. That's before a single guest steps aboard. Then comes the part nobody mentions in the brochure. The industry has a rule, and it's brutal. Roughly 10% of the purchase price every single year, just to keep the thing running. On a $40 million yacht, that's $4 million annually fuel, insurance, dockage, maintenance, and a crew that needs salaries, housing, and flights home for the holidays. Buy a yacht, and congratulations, you've also bought yourself a second mortgage that floats. Chartering is supposed to be the fix. Rent it out for 15 or 20 weeks a year at $200,000 a week, and an owner can claw back $3 or $4 million in revenue, enough on paper to cancel out that annual bill. In reality, it rarely balances that cleanly, and understanding why separates owners who run this like a business from the ones who are quietly funding an extremely expensive ego project. Take a 150-foot charter yacht managed by a firm like YCO or Northrop Johnson. This is roughly how their operation actually runs. The management company doesn't just find guests. It handles crew payroll, insurance renewals, maintenance scheduling, and repositioning logistics, taking a management fee off the top before the owner sees a cent. The advertised weekly rate doesn't include fuel, doesn't include docking fees in Monaco or St. Bart's, doesn't include the wine list, doesn't include gratuity for the crew, which runs 15 to 20% on top of everything. By the time a guest settles the bill, that $200,000 week has often become $300,000 or more. The management firm takes a cut of nearly everything sold on board too, from champagne to jet ski rentals, which turns the boat into less of a rental property and more of a floating resort with a captive, cash flush audience that has nowhere else to spend for 7 days. Where does the profit actually leak out then? Seasonality. A Mediterranean charter yacht might book solid from June through August, then sit nearly empty from October to April, still burning through crew salaries, insurance, and marina fees with nobody aboard. Owners chase the sun, repositioning to the Caribbean for winter, but that repositioning cruise alone can burn tens of thousands in fuel with 0 paying guests on it. The fleet is only as profitable as its calendar is full, and filling that calendar is far harder than the brochures suggest, which raises the real question: why does anyone pay $300,000 for a week that a modest house could buy outright? Because charter guests aren't buying transportation, they're buying total privacy, total control. A floating world where every request gets a yes. Most of them aren't comparing the cost to a cruise ship, they're comparing it to buying their own boat. And by that math, chartering looks almost sensible. Try before you buy minus the annual bill waiting on the other side. The mistake almost every first-time owner makes is assuming charter income will offset costs in year one. It almost never does. Brokers rarely correct that assumption, because the sale happens either way. The operators who turn genuine profit are the ones running 5, 10, 20 vessels, treating each yacht less like a status symbol and more like a hotel room that happens to float, tracking occupancy and repositioning costs with the same cold precision as a hotel chain watching its books. So, does owning a charter fleet actually make money? Or is it an elaborate way for wealthy people to subsidize their own summer vacations? The honest answer is both, depending entirely on scale. One yacht yacht chartered occasionally is a luxury with a spreadsheet attached, built to lose money while looking spectacular doing it. A fleet of a dozen boats, professionally managed and repositioned with surgical timing between hemispheres, can turn real profit once it stops being about one boat and starts being about occupancy across an entire portfolio. That $300,000 week isn't just a vacation. It's the fragile, seasonal, wildly expensive engine that decides whether the whole operation sinks or sails.